pjnet.tv, 9:30 East Coast time, and our bumper's running. We are live, and we are recording. We are streaming to Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Our guest is waiting. Our chat room is waiting. Let's wait no longer. Starting countdown to the brand new Studio 33 Alpha. Well, I must not have clicked my mouse with enough conviction. I started the countdown and it didn't start. I'm thinking, what is the? I just put a new battery in my mouse. Couldn't be that. Well, welcome to pjnet.tv. I'm your host, Coach Prasic. Brand new Studio 33 Alpha. Say why Alpha? Because Bravo will be next, and it'll just be the same studio in a different color. You can't get over. You can't do better. You can't make this stuff up anyway. Well, it is Thursday night, and everybody is looking forward to me shutting up and bringing on the caretaker of the Cross W Ranch, J.D. Wininger himself. And J.D. was sharing with me before the program that you've been working in a heat wave out there. You know, first it was rain that would never stop. And now you probably wish it would rain to cool things off a bit, maybe. But I just noticed this afternoon when I walked out, it actually cooled off. But we've had about 3 days of rain, so
nice.
I think the rain, must have wrung it out, and It's dry now. But I'm glad to know you're doing a little work around the farm because, people have told me that you don't get out too much. You don't. You're kind of a homebody.
Miss Diane's been my priority, and she's getting back to her same old feisty self, so I'm able to get out and get a few more things done. So Saturday I planted all that seed that I've been waiting to plant. It finally dried up enough to plant that. And tomorrow, Lord willing, I get the grass cut again. And then Sunday it starts to rain, and we've got rain on and off for the next 9 days. So lucky me, Okay, Lord, I got it planted. You gave me that window. That's all I need. We'll worry about hay in next month,
Yeah.
But no, we, you got to make hay when the sun's shining, and we got to wait for July for that apparently. So that'll be all right, Coach. Yeah. So no, today as we were talking, it's 93, 95 outside. But inside your metal workshop, with no airflow, because I want to keep the barn cats out, I'm replacing doors to 2 rooms, a tool room and my office, and putting pre-hung doors in. And unfortunately, when the folks that built this place in '99 didn't understand the concept of a pre-hung door, and you got to have enough space to make adjustments and get it to set right, because if it's cattywampus in there, the door is going to hang on you. So, boy, the opening was just about the same size as the width of the door, so there was no play. So I'm in there with my big old 12-pound sledgehammer, banging away at studs and moving things back and forth. And I went through 2 sets of clothes today. In fact, they're in the washer now. Because they're just soaking wet. I mean, boy, when you work so hard, even your shorts get wet. You're working too hard.
You need just some of that, either red and tacky or the old Kindle wheel packing grease, and kind of put it on that door. That way, when you hit it with a hammer, it
whack it in. Yes, sir.
The hammer slips out of your hand because you've been working with grease.
That's right. Yes, sir. Anyway, Coach. It's been a fun day today. Tiring but fun.
I get it. Well, folks, I put the address of his website, JD. Are you drinking diet root beer again?
Oh yes, sir. You better know it. That's
0 calories.
That's almost an every night thing in the summertime.
That and some
no
ice cream.
No coffee tonight. Yes,
that
sir.
And ice cream and diet root beer.
Klondike bar and an A&W root beer. Yes, sir. Life is good.
Follow JD for more good recipes. Well, In keeping with the season, you have dedicated your most recent blog, as some others did, and I was glad to see it, to Father's Day. But you have quite an interesting story because your life has not been the usual ramp that most on ramp to adulthood that most young men travel.
Well, it's been a circuitous route, but it's been one of great learning, great healing, and a great God. And it's funny, Coach. When I was a little fella, sometimes you just know you don't belong. We won't get into that whole backstory, but I always felt like I was out of place, like I didn't belong, and uh, I often prayed that a family would love me. I just wanted to be part of a family. Now I had a mother and father and siblings, which turned out to be half siblings and things. Oops, trying to pull my ear off. Uh, at I had those things around me, but if they're not yours, if you don't belong, then it just doesn't work. And so I always prayed that, and I'd pretty much given up on the thought until 14 years old. And this family from Massachusetts, from Belchertown, Massachusetts, moved down to a little town in Central Florida where I'm from. And they took over the local Texaco station there, north end of town, and just kind of adopted me into their family. And they became mom and dad. And, Paul became my brother, and Raymond and Richard and little Susie up in Massachusetts, who I did meet, for a couple of years. But, that's God gave me the gift of family. And, I cherish that family today and feel like I'm an integral part, and someone posted that their hubby was adopted also, and it's kind of a special thing. I said, it surely is, in the same way that God adopts us into his family. But I said, I'm sure your hubby feels the same way, ma'am. I said, but, it's one thing to have to love a child, right? I mean, if you create this child, you and your wife, then, you have to love that child. It's of you, right? But it's an entirely different thing to know that your mom and dad choose to love you. And that's exactly what adoptive parents do. And you know that as you and Miss Renee as well as anybody, Coach.
Well, I myself am adopted, or was.
Yes, sir.
And we adopted our daughter. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my because sometimes, and I guess I harp on this more than I should, or maybe you get tired of hearing of it, but maybe there's a point here. People sometimes are just not thinking when they say, "Well, did you ever want to know who your real father was?"
Mm.
Yes, his name was
Yeah.
Malcolm. Whitey, they called him. He was my real father.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah.
well, he was my adopt. I mean, there's no difference.
Right.
To me, I was adopted as a newborn, and I never thought of my parents as anything other than my parents, ever.
Parents, right? Yeah. Sure.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so guard, think about your words a little bit before you blurt them out. Who's your real? Now, wasn't that Texaco station your campground at the time when you were discovered?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But yeah, it's just an amazing story of redemption. And the same thing happens when Christ adopts us into his family, Coach. He takes us in, he cleanses us up, except his cleansing happens from the inside out, right?
And takes longer.
Yes, sir. So,
I'm
so yes, sir. This week's post was just a tip of the hat to all the dads out there. It's easy enough to become a father. We all know how that happens, but to be a dad, to be a friend, that's something special. And it took years for me to reach the point that I could call God the Father Abba, that he truly became Abba or Papa to me. Yeah. And I did realize it back in the late 70s when I wrote this poem for Father's Day, and I shared it with my dad, and he still has it. You might remember that foil transfer paper when laser printers, were the size of a small M1 tank,
Yeah.
and you'd tape this foil onto the paper and then print it through the laser printer, and the heat would transfer onto the toner. So
Mhm.
it made the letters gold or silver or purple or
Yeah, it's
whatever
more like
color the foil
embossed. Yeah, it
was.
was our.
Yes, And so I did that and put it in a little frame, made a little frame for it. And, he still has that. When we moved him to Texas, I found that in the back of his closet in the family home. He still has that old poem. He still hung on to that through all these years. And he's got it in his bedroom now, as I understand it. So that's kind of special to me.
Well,
But
if you don't mind, JD, I
yeah,
didn't know that you were a poet. I mean, I know you write, but the poem in reference, if you go to his website, jdwininger.com, it was on the screen a moment ago. I'll put it back in a moment. Today's blog, he has this poem that he himself penned, and it's short enough. I thought it would be nice, JD, if you would, just read us that poem.
well, Coach, I'll do more than read. It's been ingrained. I'm gonna see if I can't recite it for you. Should go my father's arms when I'm tired, sad, and lonely, when few others seem to care. There's a place I go to get away, for there are no troubles there. I can laugh or cry or fall asleep, or all my problems bear. It's the one place where I can just be me, for there are no troubles there. I love that place, its peaceful warmth, a place with many charms. My favorite place in all the world is in my father's arms.
Well, we were grading that
Well,
and reading it verbatim, and you,
I hope
parent,
that was okay, Coach. I didn't mess it up too bad. But
you nailed it.
and it was kind of funny because my adopted dad, I was 36 years old before my adopted dad ever said, "Jim, I love you."
Mm-hmm.
He never expressed it. Now he showed it in many ways,
Mm-hmm.
all through my life and my young life, my adult life. He showed it, but he just never had the words to express that. And I remember the day when he said that to me, and it was just something special. But Dad was never much of a hugger and things. Oh, he's pretty good at it now. I love him old dad hugs whenever I can get them. But growing up, he didn't hug a whole lot, and he kept his distance. He was dad, and that was okay, right? Mom was the emotional one, right? Little mama. But he did all those things. But you just when you worked with him, and I grew up working in the service station and things, and he taught me so much. Working on houses and working on projects around the house and things with him, he taught me so much, and just a patient, gentle teacher. And it was okay to mess up because you felt safe. Dad, I can't figure this out. Well, let's go back and look. Here's where you went wrong, and here's what you do. Uh, my favorite memento, and we all have things that we collect. I know Mr. Ben collects. I call them pedal tractors. I don't know what Mr. Ben calls them, but that's what I've always known them as. The tractors that kids would ride that
Mm-hmm.
had pedals on them like a bicycle and chain drive and things. His dad and he worked on those together growing up, and he just cherishes those things, and I can appreciate that. My favorite thing is out of my workshop. It is a wood manufacturing armature lathe from the 1940s. And it's a big, heavy cast iron thing with a big electric motor on it and a little belt that you have to custom make because you can't buy parts for these things anymore. But we used that in the service station to rebuild starters and alternators and things. We would turn the armatures and undercut the commutators and do all those things. But I can I remember Dad teaching me how to do that. Now, don't take too much, with and everything, and just that is my most favorite memento I have of my dad. Of course, I've got a lifetime of memories, but I go out and I look at that in my office. It's sitting on a table by itself. Well, actually, there's some cat food there right now, but it sits here, and it reminds me to try to be that patient teacher with others, that my dad was to me. And what a difference that makes in a young person's life when somebody takes an interest in you and they want to help you fulfill your destiny and your capability. And take an interest in what grades you make in school and how your day went and things, or sitting at the dinner table and we had to share something new we learned each day. If you didn't, you had to go to the dictionary and find a new word. That was just a rule, and the just special when at 15, 16 years old. Not this again, right? But at my age now, I look back at that and I see how he used that to bring us together, and he used that to show interest in us and to engage us. And, I remember coming home at night, me and Stretch would close up the station at night, right? Because I'd go to school and then I'd work all afternoon and evening, and we'd get done about 9 o'clock at night, and we'd close the shop, and I'd take Stretch or Paul and would go home with the money bag, here's the money bag, Dad. And he's sitting there with a Scientific American, there's two rockers beside one another. He's sitting there in his BVDs with a Scientific American or Popular Mechanics magazine, and Mom's got her Bible out, and that's just a picture that I see of my mom and dad in my mind's eye. So, no, I just wanted to share a tribute with dads out there everywhere. Be engaged in your children's life and make a difference. And what a difference it will make in your kids, how they turn out. I've often told people, whatever good there is out of me, it's because of what my adopted mom and dad poured into me, Coach.
Mm-hmm. It's kind of like the father that we reminisce about, the one you were describing, is the ultimate mentor, the ultimate discipler. And it's heartwarming to hear you recall those times, and I could go on just as long as you did and longer, reminiscing about good times and meaningful times.
Duck hunting with Dad, right?
Duck hunting with Dad, fishing, and it's very heartwarming, and it's good to recall those. But I hate to say that many children are growing up without a dad now. It's not because their father is dead; it's because their father is absent.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be discouraging or disparaging on our program, because we want to encourage. So recognize that there's a vacuum. There's a need for, well, you can't be their dad, but you can be their mentor. You can be their discipler. There was a guy that lived next door, well, two houses over, kind of, anyway, 100 yards away. Bill James, old Bill, he had an interesting accent. I think he was Scottish in his past.
Oh, okay.
But my father was not the mechanical type, but Bill James was. And it was Bill James, that I would go to his shop, because he had all the, the pinup girls.
I remember the parts calendars.
Yeah, right, yeah. But it was he that he gave me a lawnmower engine and said, let's take it apart so I can show you. Here's how a 4-stroke engine works. Mm-hmm. And he worked on he had an old Ford 8N tractor that he worked on. He had an old VW bus with the Boxer 40 horse air cooled We tore that thing apart. And
Yeah.
and I can remember it was a barn, but it had no front door or front wall, so the whole front end of this thing was open. So I
Oh,
would take
okay.
my motorcycle over there, and when the chain needed tightening or it needed any maintenance, he worked for the post office. He wasn't home, but he said, Mark, whatever you need, just use it. Just remember to put it back. And I would go in his, well, he filled that gap. My father, be that Bill James to
Yes.
somebody else's son or daughter.
Yeah.
We can do that. We can do that.
That's right.
And I think we need to recognize, because, what stories are these young boys going to tell when they get old like us? Are they going to talk
Yeah.
about, the rap star? Or are they going to talk about Coach Prasick helping them, whatever? So I certainly
Yeah.
hope. Gosh, I just, you and I grew up not too far from each other, actually.
No,
Not
sir.
grew up,
Pretty
but
close. Yeah. What,
pretty
12
close.
miles?
Yeah,
Right now?
and
Yeah.
but I so much remember that fishing trip with my dad. We had to hike through an orange grove to
Okay.
get to
Yeah.
the little lake, and and we carried these, we had our sack lunches. So I'm trying to keep up with Dad to walk in his footsteps. Now that Orange Grove sand, does not, it's
That's
not real
tough walking.
conducive.
Yeah. That's tough walking. Yes, sir.
And I remember pinning the sack lunches up in the orange tree so the ants would not likely find them.
Hmm.
And I'm out there wading up to here. Dad's about, he's waist deep. I'm up to here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was the first fish I ever caught. And that fish was about as big
Oh,
as I was. And what an ordeal, but what a joy. Oh, gee, JT. Gosh,
just great
to
memories, aren't they? Yes, sir.
yeah. And
And
yeah.
yeah, I look at Mr. Doug Carter, and he's got a young fella
Right.
today. And I say young, I'm thinking he's early teens. I've
Teens,
not
yeah.
met the young fella yet, but yeah, and I see how involved and engaged. Whenever I see Doug, I see his son in the picture. They
Mm-hmm.
go to the beach, son is with him, and things. And that's all kids want. We don't need all the games and all the big allowances and everything else. We need a dad in our lives. We need somebody to show up and take interest in us, show us how to do things, involve us, engage us. Uh, that's all you've got to be. You don't have to, you know, too many dads, and you kind of touched on this, coach, and I'll add to your comment. Too many dads think we need two cars, a boat, a motorcycle, a jet ski, and and a pool table in the basement. We don't need all those things to be entertained. What we need is family, and too many of us have forgotten that. And it seems the government wants to take the role of
Mm-hmm.
family. They want to be the parent. They want to decide what's right and what's good, and that's wrong, Coach. They can't
Mm-hmm.
replace the family.
Okay.
But boy, I'll tell you, Satan is sure working hard to allow somebody else to take the place of the family. You can't, But at the end of the day, God wins, man. So we'll bear with this a little bit more, but remember, God wins, folks. And remember this: one day you're going to stand in front, father, dad, older brother, uncle, cousin, whatever you are. You're going to stand in front of the King Almighty, and He's going to judge your life, not for all the wonderful prayers that you uttered, but for all the wonderful gifts that you gave others that followed the character of His Son. So get
Amen.
engaged, be engaged, show God's love to the world around you. Would you please? Thanks,
Invest.
Coach.
All right. Well, JD, we love you, brother, and thank you so much for sharing with us this evening. I'm going to show you a view high above the Eagle's Nest broadcast studios, and I have an unusual opportunity that I would like to take advantage of, because I try to kind of glance at the chat, and there's somebody's in there wondering why they call me Coach. And I thought I would share why. I'm a coach about like Sanders was a colonel. I was an assistant coach for a couple of seasons under my former coach. But coaching would not describe my professional life whatsoever, not in terms of football. But my coach was such an influence on me. I had a great dad. I just shared about that. But it was my coach that taught me to be competitive, to push myself beyond reasonable limits that I had put, that we put on ourselves. And he taught me the value of building teams. He taught me the value of teamwork. And he meant so much to me. In fact, I was honored to speak at his 70th birthday celebration when most of the town was there. It's a small town, folks. But anyway, but no, it is. I think of coaching as discipling, as mentoring, which starts out as tormenting, but it becomes mentoring. but it is the highest honor to me to be called coach, because that's kind of the picture of what a good dad would be, that pushes you, that rewards you, that cares and trains you, and just I love it. But anyway, but I'm so honored. But if you call me Mark, I don't take that as a insult. All right. Well, folks, I hope you are as excited as I am, and I want to remind everybody this is the launch of Studio 33 Alpha. It was modeled after a previous studio, but we did this one ourselves, and I use the plural form, we. I did not do this by myself. Sunbelt Girl, our associate producer, was there with me, well, Skype, Zoom or whatever. And we worked on it together. It was several nights. We're learning this 3D animation, and we're about to do another one. I promise it will be more feminine. This one still needs a little bit of polish, but I did not want to wait until next week. I'm always saying, hey, we're working on something. I'm going to show you and all that. So I'm excited about it. This was, anyway, so many good things. Just, you're so inspired you can't sleep. You know what I mean? Okay. Well, that will wrap it up for me this week, but PJ Net doesn't end on Thursday night, because tomorrow night, Friday night, Steve Hazards has the helm. Now, he starts some music up about 9 p.m., and but at 10 p.m., that's the time when everybody, they start showing up. You can tell. Whatever they were doing that night, they're back home now. And he brings you my perspective and comments starting around 10 o'clock, depending on when YouTube gets done processing the video. Weekend summary, the news and current events of the past week. He brings us with a spiritual and biblical worldview. And as JD would say, brings it home. Does a little preaching at the end. I think you'll enjoy it. Folks, I can't say enough about how much I appreciate those of you who prayerfully support the ministry here at pjnet.tv. I look around me, and almost everything I see, I could say, oh yeah, so-and-so did, help do that, and so-and-so prayed about that, and and I look down in the chat room and I say, that is I would take that team anywhere, anytime, and expect to win. And I am just grateful beyond words, and I appreciate each one of you. Everybody's got a place on this team. If you want to commit yourself to a very simple mission to provide a platform for everyday Christians to share their walk with Christ. That's it. That's what we do. We're not here to make anybody famous, although I wish we would. We want to make Jesus Christ famous. That's who we want to make famous. Before I leave, I ask you if you would be willing to ask yourself and answer yourself honestly on these two questions. The first one is, what is the boldest thing that you have ever done for Jesus Christ? Hope you don't have to think too long about that. The second question is, how long ago was that? I just hope none of us will ever be satisfied with either answer.